Jayu kung hunangay, 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 Jayu kung hunangay,
Okay, go.
Hi, my name is Cameron Spivey. I'm a family nurse practitioner here at the King Cove Clinic. I have been here in King Cove for 2 years, actually 2 years this month, and it's been a great pleasure of mine to serve this community and take care of everyone here, the very young to the very old. And I came from Georgia, so this weather was completely new to me. And I had a very, an experience about a month after I came here that convinced me that this community very much needs a road. When I'd been here about a month, it was the first week of April, and April here is definitely a winter month. I was used to it being a spring month, and so I found out when I got here that it was very much a wintry month. And I had a mom come in with her 5-month-old baby, and she came in at 8:15 in the morning, right after we opened, and the baby was having trouble breathing. Well, I'm a pediatric nurse by trade, and so I saw that this baby had a respiratory illness and needed some breathing treatments and some intervention, and so we did that. And no matter what I did, the breathing treatments, the medication, the baby just kept getting worse and worse. And she was just getting worse before our very eyes. And so I told Mom, I said, we're going to need to get her out. We're going to need to get her out to Anchorage. She needs to be in the hospital. I called the hospital, set up everything. They immediately agreed with me, said, yes, we need to get her out. Let's call the Life Flight plane. And so we called the Life Flight people and the medevac people to get a medevac for her out of King Cove to Anchorage. And it was blowing outside, the weather was horrible, and they said we can't fly. The medevac plane couldn't fly. That just tells you how bad the weather was that day. And I said, what? I said, I need this baby out. And so they said, our only suggestion to you is to call the Coast Guard. So I called the Coast Guard, spoke to the flight surgeon in Kodiak, explained to her what was going on with this baby. This baby was going downhill. We were giving her IV fluids, constant breathing treatments, and she was just getting sicker and sicker. And it was really scary. And so when I talked to the Coast Guard flight surgeon, she said, definitely, I think we need to plan on bringing the C-130 to Cold Bay. And so I said, okay, but we're going to have to send the chopper over to King Cove. And so she called back a few minutes later and said, the weather's so bad that we're going to have to wait on the chopper coming over. And by this time, it's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 6 hours we've been in the clinic. The baby is getting worse and worse. And she was breathing about 80, 90 times a minute, if you can imagine a baby breathing that fast. And so I said, I don't know what we're going to do. And it was so bad that the Coast Guard chopper had to delay coming over. And when they did try to come over, well, they called and said, we can't land on your airfield. Is there a road we can land on? And I said, I'm sure there is. I mean, I'd only been here a month. I didn't even, I didn't know. And so we finally ended up with the Coast Guard chopper coming and landing after multiple attempts where that huge chopper couldn't even land. And we got her on the chopper and over to Cold Bay where the C-130 was waiting, and picked her up and took her to Anchorage, where she thankfully recovered after several days in the hospital. That experience, it was so terrifying to me to think that a baby could die out here because we didn't have the ability to get her to Cold Bay, where there was a huge C-130 waiting. So I just want, and thankfully everything went fine. She recovered and she's now a happy, playful 2-year-old. But that really told me that it could be the difference between life and death. And so I hope that you understand that these sorts of situations that I could not imagine when I was providing medical care in Georgia could ever happen simply because there's no road. Thank you.
My name is Agnes Beaver. I was born here in King Cove. I'm 65 years old. 2 years ago I was medevaced out, and we need this road so bad for medical. The night I got medevaced out, if I didn't get out, I would have died. The Coast Guard came in that night, was blowing about 70 miles an hour. Well, the doctors, they said if I didn't get out that I wouldn't live, and there's so many of us elders here that this is our home, and we don't want to move away from our home. They seem like they're putting wildlife over our health and stuff. All over there's wildlife, and they build a road through it. And the population in King Cove is growing, and there's the young ones, they want to stay here and raise their families. But getting out and getting even our medicine. All winter long we fight with getting our medicine.
Good.
Okay. I'm Thomas Dobson, who lives in King Cove. I am 83 years old, and been here for many years. Watched the movements of the town growing, and played a part in some of it. I think this road from King Cove to Cold Bay is a must for many reasons. One is for emergency uses, and the quicker means of getting out without riding boats in terrible weather. Sure would be a lot nicer to be on dry land and traveling than it is to be on a rough sea. And that eliminates going from dock to dock, climbing ladders to get off a boat. It's not always easy. I think it would be one of the greatest things if this road was completed and we have access to getting to Cold Bay. That's about all I have.
My name is Robert Koo. I'm the Chief of Police here with the City of King Cove. To my knowledge, there have never been any meetings. No one has ever asked him or his dad on input making that area a wildlife refuge, the Izembek Wildlife Refuge. There was no, to my knowledge, there was no period for public comment or anything on that. It just seemed like it was all done in a secretive way.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Babcock, and I am the Fire Chief and EMS Coordinator and EMT 1 for the City of King Cove. I've been asked to talk about the road to Cold Bay, and I'll give one story. Back when the hovercraft first started, I did a medevac on board the hovercraft the first winter that it was in operation, and it took us 2.5 hours to get to Cold Bay on the hovercraft. The hovercraft was freezing up. The engineer on board the hovercraft had to have a tether line hooked to him, and he was outside opening up hatches and vents to cool the hovercraft down. There was a couple times that the captains were getting ready to call the Coast Guard. We were going to beach the hovercraft, and here we're doing a medevac for somebody that needed medical attention ASAP. And normally I went on a couple other hovercraft medevacs, and it took us maybe 15-20 minutes to get to Cold Bay. And this particular instance took us 2.5 hours, and we were stuck over there for 2.5 days after, because the hovercraft was literally frozen to the beach. So we have used the hovercraft. The hovercraft was an option. It does not work out here. Our weather conditions are very severe and come up very quickly. Right now we're experiencing a windstorm right now, winds up to 70 miles an hour this afternoon. So the only option out here is the road to Cold Bay, where we can get people over to Cold Bay as soon as possible, where they can get on a life flight and get the medical attention that they need. That's all we're asking for. We're not asking for anything more. We're asking that we get the same quality of health care that people get elsewhere in the state and in the lower 48. Thank you.
You could be saving my life.
Or my life.